Howdy, folks. Darren Ray Fonso talking about workers' compensation, or labor and industries as we call it here in the state of Washington and across America. And we'll touch on Canada and some other countries once in a while. Because there's a genocide on injured workers, and it's worldwide at this point. And we're injured workers are aware of it, we're awake, and we know what's going on, and now we're trying to wake up our lawmakers to get them to address that issue. And so, which brings me to my point tonight, is about how I have a lot of people tell me, well, gee, we could get you this Medicare for all. And that will solve your injured workers' problems because you would get immediate help. You would just be helped right away. Wouldn't that be great? Well, yeah, getting some care would be nice, and getting it fast would be nice. But there's one problem with this. Getting medical care, or urgent, or you mean getting the medical care, is only part of the problem for the injured workers of America and Canada, apparently. Compensation is the other problem. So we can get, the medical care, but that doesn't resolve the compensation question, which needs to be resolved if you are injured on the job, because we need to know and have our employers be responsible if there's a bald tire on the truck and it causes an accident. We need to know and have the party responsible pay for that. But my biggest thing about it when they say Medicare for all, because I'm actually for Medicare for all. I would love to see that happen. There is a big portion of us in America that would love to see it happen. But what I'd like to see happen is to have some minimum federal standards along with that, so that we don't have this problem of a gentleman getting $35,000 for an amputated arm in one state, like Alabama, and $750,000 in the next state over, like Georgia. This Medicare for all itself will not resolve the compensation issue and resolve that disparity and inequality from happening in America today. I'm sorry. We could have Medicare on a silver platter, and I would love us to have that, but to not have that along with some minimum federal standards for the injured workers of America to stop that exact type of inequality I just discussed with you, then we are leaving the injured workers behind. The same as was done in these other countries that have implemented universal health care, like Canada and Australia and Canada and in England. In every one of those states, we hear injured workers screaming out and crying for help. And they're not getting the issue addressed. They're getting the same thing, told the same thing. So anyways, we can do better, I think, as Americans. We can implement universal health care, but we can do it one step better than all those other countries. We cannot leave our injured workers behind as they did. It's a really easy thing to do. And so when these other people try to tell me that, oh, gee, we've got your Medicare for all, so you don't need your grand bargain no more, little guy. I'm sorry. I still need that grand bargain, and all the workers in America still need that grand bargain. The only problem is we need it to be honored. And that's not going on. And just getting Medicare for all is not going to resolve our grand bargain not being honored and the compensation that's due us, and making us go through a gauntlet of insurance hell that you guys are all telling us, well, you're getting rid of the insurance company. Shouldn't you love this Medicare for all? Because we're getting rid of taking out the insurer, but you're not taking out the insurer for the injured workers, because the injured workers are still going to have to defend and be denied, defend and denied and defended, delayed against, and stalled and starved out for on peanuts. So just getting Medicare for all doesn't resolve the compensation issue for the injured workers of America. And so I'm sorry, we need to voice that and make sure that if we're going to put forth Medicare for all, that we're putting forth some minimum federal standards for the injured workers of America as well. Otherwise, we leave the injured workers behind, just like Canada and just like all the other countries that have implemented universal health care. Now, if you want to scream universal health care, that is great. I'm all for it, and I will back you up 100%, but only if you don't tell us you can't put our issue on the table with your minimum federal standards, because if you do, then you're leaving injured workers behind, and you are eroding our grand bargain even more so, which was the whole reason Senator Sanders and a whole bunch of other people in the U.S. Department of Labor and OSHA come out and told us we needed these minimum federal standards because the grand bargain was being eroded away, and it was adding to inequality and basically to the homelessness in our country at this point. Yet I have people who are telling me, oh, we can't put that issue on the table with all our other pressing issues. I'm sorry, this issue needs to be on that table before Medicare for all, because otherwise we will leave the injured workers behind if we don't address this issue simultaneously or before we do the Medicare for all, because otherwise you will still have angry injured workers and people being abused and thrown on the work comp machine fires, like logs stoking their little fire to keep their little machines going, because that's all injured workers have become now. It's just fodder for their little machines to run. And we have people who are making way too much money to intently lie to deny. And then we catch them on appeals, and those same doctors continue. And those same Dr. Mills continue to harm and hurt people rather than working towards the interest of humanity and helping people. And yet they live behind a separate set of laws, state med tort and state work comp laws, that this Medicare for all still isn't going to answer who's going to be policing the doctors. And if we had some minimum federal standards, we could address that issue. And also, it's not just a disparity between if somebody gets an amputated part, because yes, Medicare for all, the arms will get amputated and they'll get emergent care. But Medicare for all doesn't resolve the compensation issue. It does not. And so to tell injured workers of America that, oh, gee, we got Medicare for all, that solves your issue, you can go away now. No, we still need to address our issue. And we actually need our issue before you get your issue on the table. Otherwise, you're leaving a whole bunch of people behind in America. And injured workers, actually, it can affect 1 in 4 of us, is what the stats are saying. So to try and leave, for you to leave 1 in 4 of us behind, who are harmed or injured on our jobs, is not a nice thing to do. So I support you for your Medicare for all. I support you with your universal payer or single payer healthcare, if you want to call it that. I do not support doing it in a one state fix, because once again, even if we did that and we tried single payer or Medicare for all just in Washington state or one other state, and so we use that as like a petri dish to be an example for all the other states. In the meantime, we still have injured workers in all those other states being failed. We need those minimum federal standards to address the fact that we're failing injured workers in 33 states. It's really that simple. And so, I don't know. And then I can go on and on how Medicare for all alone does not stop the disparities or inequalities going on in our state work comp systems that need some minimum federal oversight. We're not asking for much here. If you can demand a minimum federal wage, you can demand them to minimum federal standards for the injured workers of America, so we don't get left behind like they did in all those other countries that implemented universal health care. Otherwise, their injured workers would not be networked with ours and screaming out in pain. They would not have had an injured worker spend 9 years in prison because he walked in with a long rifle, all upset over the harm that was being done to him in his work comp care. And rather than address the harm being done to us in our care, they would rather incarcerate us all. And it's getting sickening at this point. It's pressing when one class is able to harm another class and hide behind a different set of laws. And we catch them on appeal and nothing happens to them. We get told they get told to maybe make right and amend their reports to give somebody a PPD award or PPD rating that they should have been giving them to start with, that they were intently trying to deny them out of. Yet they'd get no slap on the hand for trying to harm and to lie to deny. When if the injured worker was trying to lie to get services, then we are held to the full criminal law. This issue needs to be addressed, and to stop telling us that Medicare for all is going to resolve an issue for the injured workers of America and Canada even. It's really insulting, and you add insult to injury when you tell the injured workers of America that, gee, we're going to give you Medicare for all. You'll get help. Don't you get it? You'll get help right away. No, you won't. There'll be waiting times anyways. And besides that, I'm all for it, but not if you leave the injured workers behind, and I will leave it with that. You cannot say that Medicare for all is going to stop that disparity between one man making $35,000 in a state for an amputated arm and the other guy only getting $750,000 for the same loss. And I'm sorry, Medicare for all may get us care, but it isn't going to compensate us for our losses for our on-the-job injuries. And it may lead to cost shifting some of the employers and insurers' burdens off to we the taxpayers, and that's something we need to talk about, not something we need to add more to. Thank you, and have a good day.